water, please help yourself. Okay?
Breakfast.
Yeah, right. Well, think of it this way. If you had breakfast, that's your dessert. If you haven't had lunch, you'll just have to have dessert first. How's that? Okay? All right. Well, let's get started on our program today. As you can see, the topic is how to make and keep the most money in retirement. We're going to be focusing on Social Security today, but there's other aspects of it. And let me get my clicker and we'll get started here. Okay, I gave you all a card when you came in. I'm an independent benefits broker, but this is strictly an educational program today. I'm here representing an organization called the Society of Financial Awareness, which I'll talk a little bit more about shortly. But for my own business, our motto is we help our clients maximize income and minimize taxes to build your wealth and protect your health for safe and secure retirement. That's quite a mouthful. That's a lot to try to talk about all in one day. The good news is we're not. As I'll be explaining as we go on, today's program is actually the first of two parts. The second part will be held in a couple months, sometime in the month of June, and I'll be explaining what that will be and making sure that you all get invitations to that. But I want you to know what we're going to be talking about today is this subject of maximizing income from Social Security, because you're going to find out as we go through the program how very important it is to learn that you have the choice and you have the option as to how much money you're going to be able to receive from Social Security. And we want to help you learn how to get the most that you possibly can. So we talk about maximizing income. We'll also be talking about minimizing taxes. That will be in part 2 program. We're going to be talking about the new tax code that was signed by the president, became effective last December, and is in effect for this year. It's a great opportunity, a tremendous opportunity for retirement planning. We'll get into that in part 2, and then we'll also in part 2 talk about how to protect your health, meaning we'll talk a bit about your Medicare benefits that will be coming up for you if you're not yet 65, and also build your wealth. We'll be talking about some ideas relating to estate planning. So you're certainly entitled to know a little bit about the person who's going to stand up here and talk to you for the next hour, so I'll just go through this real quickly. After high school, I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps and then attended college on the GI Bill and earned a degree in accounting. So my fundamental basis in this business is first and foremost looking at this business as an accountant's point of view. Okay, sure, thank you. I decided to go into the financial services business and spent 20 years as a stockbroker with an organization called Dean Witter, which you might remember. Back in 2003, Dean Witter became part of another larger firm called Morgan Stanley. But I took early retirement after 20 years, and in 2003, I started my own independent company called Personal Benefit Service. So we've been in business in that regard for 15 years now. I like to mention that because you've probably heard that 4 out of 5 businesses fail within the first 5 years. So the fact that I'm still here after 15 years is very gratifying, and I really owe it to the clientele that I represent. I also hold a designation called a Certified Retirement Financial Advisor. That means I have been academically trained in the subjects we're going to be talking about tonight. I don't know if you're familiar with that title, Certified Retirement Financial Advisor. You might know another title called Certified Financial Planners. If you know Certified Financial Planners, a Certified Retirement Financial Advisor is a certified financial planner specifically trained in and working in the retirement-related field. So my clientele is people from their 50s on up. And in that regard, we've done many enrollments for people into Medicare. I'm qualified with the federal government to be able to do that. If you notice the card that I gave you when I came in, my office is at the Fort Harrison Office Park. But I'm in what's called a shared office facility, which has about 8 or 10 different offices all around central Indiana. So what that means is if I want to meet with someone, I have an office that I can do that in Carmel, on East Carmel Drive. I have an office in Noblesville that I can share, which is right on the southwest corner of the Courthouse Square, right on the corner of Connor and 10th Street. We also have offices in Plainfield and Greenwood, as well as 2 in Fishers. One downtown at 116th and Hague, and another on State Road 37 at 141st Street. So I mention those because if you'd ever like to be able to have an opportunity to have meetings and you'd like to come to one of those offices, I can always reserve the use of an office space there that we can be there. So I've got the ability to be able to not only be at the Fort Harrison office, but all these other locations as well. So what we're going to be talking about today, folks, I'm going to tell you right up front, is what may be considered a radical new approach to retirement planning. Because I want you to open the window and toss out this idea of conventional wisdom. When it comes to financial matters, conventional wisdom is almost always wrong. For example, if your objective is to maximize your income and minimize your taxes, and you're using the traditional approach of just working with your employer's 401k or 403b, socking as much money away there as you can, and then not taking it out until you absolutely have to, that is going to do the opposite of what you want to do to maximize income and minimize taxes. If you take that approach, as I'm going to be showing you today, you're actually going to be minimizing your income and maximizing your taxes. And I'm going to be telling you a new approach. Now, the philosophy that I'm going to be presenting here is based on factual information that I'm going to be sharing with you today. If you understand and agree with what I'm saying, you may find out that the advice I can give you is the kind of thing that can not only be very helpful for you, but is also the type of person that you ought to be working with as a financial and retirement planning advisor. So that's why I say it's time to learn another way, a better way, to reach your objectives of more income and less taxation. Not the ways that you've conventionally heard all your life, but a completely different approach. But the good news is there's no magic bullets. There's no secret formula. The reality is if you really understand how the federal government system works for Social Security, this is the way that we're able to counsel people to learn how to get as much Social Security income as you possibly can. But I want to tell you rule number 1 with this new approach. It's the most important thing you'll learn about maximizing your Social Security. The most important thing you need to learn to do if you want to maximize your Social Security is 2 words. Do nothing. Now, I had a class one time where a guy spoke up and he said, I'm real good at doing nothing. That's something. But you know what? I got to thinking about it, and he's absolutely right. No one ever had to teach you to train you how to do nothing. It comes natural. For example, I don't know, Jim, can I pick on you a second? Sure. Tell me something. Are you good at doing nothing?
Excellent.
You're excellent at it? Did anybody have to teach you how to do it? Did you have to go through any special training?
No.
No? Well, guess what, folks? That's the first key right there to learning how to maximize your Social Security income. And you're going to understand what that means as we go on. But just remember those 2 words, and you all got paper and pens on your desk. If you want to write notes, this is something you ought to be writing down right now. Rule number 1, do nothing. Okay. All right. Let me talk about what I call my 3 keys to saving for retirement, and you'll understand why in a second. It revolves around the word what, how, and where. As in number 1, determine what amount you need to save. For example, a lot of people will say, I have an objective that I want to have a certain income in retirement. I'm going to budget, I'm going to plan on it. Well, have you, what we call, tested that to make sure that what you're saving and how you're saving is going to be able to earn enough for you to be able to live that lifestyle? We can help you do that testing and make that determination. The second thing is determine how to save, because as we're going to talk about in the course of this program, there really are 2 ways that you can be saving money. One is through a qualified approach. The other is what's called a non-qualified approach. A qualified approach means using your programs like 401ks and IRAs or 401(3)Bs if you're in the public sector. Those are qualified programs. Non-qualified programs are any various types of savings or investment strategies that we might use. There are some times when the appropriate action is to use a qualified account rather than a non-qualified. There are other times when it's better to use a non-qualified account than a qualified account. And we can help you not only learn to understand that, but do that in your own practice. And then third is determining where to save. In other words, the types of programs to use. I have that third because so often people think the key to retirement planning and retirement saving is in the way you invest and what you're invested in. And in reality, those types of vehicles are a secondary or even a tertiary consideration to knowing, first off, what amount you need to save, and number two, the types of accounts you ought to be saving it in. And those are the kinds of things we can help you to understand and show you and make recommendations to help you achieve your eventual goals. So I want all of you to become a pro. Let me explain. I want you to become a proactive consumer of your Social Security entitlement. In other words, the days are long gone of Uncle Sugar taking care of us. We all know that. We don't just have to sit back and open the mail and get checks from the government that we're going to live on. You don't have to learn the rules of Social Security as well as I do, but you have to develop enough of an understanding and be working with someone like me who can help you determine exactly what you ought to be doing. So if you're going to be a successful saver, you've got to become a proactive person. You've got to become personally involved in learning about these issues and working with professionals who can help you achieve them. And I also want you to become a proponent of a policy that's called Get What's Yours. Folks, I want to put this right on the table right now because I want to make sure no one has any problems with this. We're going to talk about ways that you can get more income out of your Social Security than a lot of other people who don't know these things at all. And this is absolutely nothing you should ever feel guilty about or think that you shouldn't be doing, because you have an entitlement you have earned. And there's a way, as I'm going to be able to show you, to get more than double the amount of Social Security that you would have thought of that you could get. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. In fact, the government will be very grateful if you decide to settle for less than what you are entitled to. If they can pay you less, Kent, there's some folks coming in. If they can pay you less, they'll be more than happy to do it. And Kent, you might want to convert that back table into something that they can sit at and get some chairs from the corner there.
Gotcha.
So I want you to think of, I'm going to get what's mine. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it, and it is something that you should do because you've earned it and you're entitled to it, and we're going to show you how to be able to do it. As I say, get more than double what someone who doesn't know how to use the system might end up doing. So we're building a team of pros. We're looking for new recruits all the time. I'd be more than happy to work with every single one of you. In fact, we'll talk about that at the end, helping you learn to get what's yours and become an active proponent of your benefits. So we're going to begin on what I call the first part of the journey now. This is part one. This class will have to be dedicated exclusively to Social Security. As I said, there will be a follow-up class where we talk about other savings vehicles, where we talk about the new tax code, where we talk about how your Medicare benefits will work, where we talk about learning about estate plans. We'll cover all that as part two, and after we've had a chance to have our personal meeting, which I want to ask everybody to be sure to schedule with me, have a personal meeting, and then sometime after we've had those personal meetings, sometime in the month of June, we'll be having our part two, and you'll be getting a notice about where and when that will be. But I want to help you learn how to become the $100,000 retirees and pay 40% less tax on your retirement income. Would you believe it's possible for a couple to be able to be getting $100,000 out of your Social Security? It is. As we get into the details of this, you'll see that when it comes to calculating your monthly Social Security income, the government does have a maximum amount that you can get at what's called your full retirement age. But if you delay your benefits and earn the extra accruements that you'll get, you can get to the point where someone could be, a couple can each be earning $50,000 a year from Social Security benefits. And when it comes to the subject of paying 40% less tax, remember I talked about the approach of using those 401ks and relying on that. As we can show you, if you take that approach in the long run, you're going to end up spending a whole lot more taxes than you have to. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of taxes in retirement, but a lot of them are what I call optional. There are a lot of taxes that if you know about them, you know how to be able to avoid them and won't have to pay them, whereas if you don't, you will. So part 2, as I said, we'll be talking about how to maximize income using qualified and non-qualified accounts. We'll talk about minimizing taxes, learning about the new tax code. As I said, it's a real great opportunity, and it's a temporary opportunity. I don't know if you know this, but there's been not only a reduction in taxes, but a widening of the tax brackets, which means you can take out more money at lower levels, but it's going away in the year 2025. So we've got to learn what it is and how to take advantage of it and do it now. And then we'll talk about the Medicare, and then we'll also talk about the estate planning. So a quick word on how and why I'm here. I'm a representative of a national nonprofit organization by the name of the Society of Financial Awareness. SOFA has been working in this country for 25 years now, since 1993. Using volunteers such as myself, people who are in the industry, who realize there's a serious need for helping the general American public learn and understand the financial situation better. So we put on these programs. These are strictly educational. As I said, we don't talk about any companies. We don't talk about any products. We want to teach you how the system works, because you need to know how the system works. So you can not only learn how to make it work for you, but also, in all honesty, the Social Security, the Medicare, they're good basic programs, but that's all they are, is basic programs. They are not expansive in their coverage and in their protection. And you need to learn about what these programs do so you also understand what they don't do. So if there are gaps that you need to fill for your own personal benefit, we can help you to do so. So you all did that survey for me when you came in. Thank you very much. As I said, Ivy Tech wants these things to evaluate this as a new course to be offered on an ongoing basis. And then at the end, you'll also be asked to do this evaluation. So I apologize that there's all this paperwork. I promise none of it will end up having you getting unwittingly re-enlisted in the military and go back to basic. That's not going to happen. I sure wouldn't want to do it. It's been about 45 years now since that time. Have you ever heard this quote? The fear of dying has been replaced by the fear of living too long. What do you suppose that means? Any thoughts about that?
Outlive your financial capability.
That's right. Let's see, Dorothy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We are blessed with longevity in this generation now, but longevity comes at the risk of literally running out of money, especially when you realize that healthcare inflation continues every year unabated to be increasing at about a 6% rate, whereas our cost of living adjustments are only maybe 2% increases if we're lucky. 6%, do you realize what that means? If you've heard the rule of 72, it means if you divide a number into 72, it tells you how long it would take to double. At 6%, that means the rate of inflation is going to double every 12 to 15 years. That means in our lifetime, we could live through 2 more doublings of the cost of health care. Now, what we can do about that is a lot dependent upon your personal situation, but it certainly leads back to the same message that it's so very important to learn how to get the most you possibly can out of your Social Security. You know, I have a lot of people tell me, they say, well, I want to start my Social Security just as early as I can because I may not live long, so I might as well get it while I can. Well, what if you do live long? You know, I talked about one time planning for having money at the age of 90, and a lady started giggling and said it's silly to think about planning for that long. Well, would it be silly if you did live to 90 and you were broke? That wouldn't be funny at all. So we need to talk about what we can do to make our money last as long as we do, and right at the top of that list is learning how to maximize your Social Security income. Because there's this little organization called the National Institute on Retirement Security, and they're telling us that 92% of working households are not saving enough to meet the kind of income requirements they have to live the kind of lifestyle they imagine in retirement. We can do a lot of things when we talk into our personal planning sessions later on about what we can do to help you maximize what you have been saving, but still, that's a figure we need to keep in mind. Most people are not on course to be able to have enough money to live the way they want to and have it last as long as they will. So running out of money has become such a grave concern because, for starters, so very few companies offer pensions anymore. And they're telling us that 46% of Americans will pass away with less than $10,000 in assets. They may have had a lot more before they died. You can't imagine how fast things like nursing homes can deplete the funds that you have. Let me just tell you as a personal aside, and this is a true story. Up in Toledo, my father is 88 and has dementia. My mother is 86 and has leukemia. They live in a nursing home that costs $9,500 a month.
For both?
Total. Now, folks, everybody likes to tell me, that it's never going to happen to me. I'm never going in a nursing home. Let me tell you, I've been working with the Medicare system ever since the Medicare Modernization Act began in the year 2005. That's 13 years ago now, so that means people that I was enrolling in Medicare programs back then when they were in their 60s and 70s are now in their 80s and 90s, and all the people who told me I'm never going to a nursing home are the clients I'm going to see each year for annual re-enrollment who are living in a nursing home. It's a reality we've got to be aware of and we've got to plan for. I can help you do that, and the good news is it doesn't require any long-term health care insurance. I know how the system works. I can help prepare for that, but it is something we have to be aware of and we have to be able to prepare for. All right. As we're saving and going along the way, though, we're still dealing with these three risks. Longevity, we just talked about that a little earlier ago, inflation, and taxes. And as I said, there's a lot of taxes after the age of 65, of which if you're not there yet, you're not aware of. If you are, you probably wondered where they came from. But as I said, a lot of them can also be optional, and we can learn how to avoid them. So here's some basics on how your Social Security works. Your income actually comes from a government organization known as OASDI, the Old Age Survivor and Disability Insurance Program. And the way you get to be qualified for Social Security is what happens is, shouldn't have done that, is that in order to be qualified to receive Social Security, you have to have credit for 40 quarters of working. 1 quarter equals 1 credit. You need 40 credits, so that's the equivalent of 10 years. So each quarter you would have had to have had an income, it's indexed, but it's currently about $1,500 a quarter. If you're working and you make $1,500 in a quarter, you get credit for that quarter. That's one of the 40 credits you get. So if you're going through a working life, that's certainly no problem because you can fulfill that in 10 years. But that's the way the system works. You need to accrue 40 credits in order to be able to receive Social Security income. Now, here's how we need to start to get into the details of how Social Security breaks down. Because there's 3 periods that you can choose to begin receiving your benefits in. You can begin your benefits as early as age 62 or 60 if you're listed as disabled. But there's 3 periods of time. There's what's called an early retirement period, there's what's called a full retirement age, and then a delayed retirement. Early retirement means, as I said, once you turn 62, you can go to Social Security and enroll and begin receiving a check. But you need to know, and you probably do, that the longer you wait, you continue to get more credit and more income from Social Security along the way. As a matter of fact, if you think of full retirement age, which we'll be getting to in just a second, as equaling 100% of your benefit, if you begin as early as the age of 25, you would be taking a permanent if you began at 62, you'd be taking a permanent 25% reduction in the amount of Social Security that you could get. Now, each year that you wait beyond 62, for the next 4 years, the amount of income that you will receive from Social Security goes up by about 6.25%. So that when you reach what's considered to be your full retirement age, that's the age at which you would be able to receive 100%. And what your full retirement age is based upon your age. Is there anybody here that was born before 1943? What are you guys doing here?
We're dead.
Well, your full retirement age was 65. How many people were born between 1943 and 1954? Your full retirement age is 66. You will receive 100% of your Social Security benefit at the age of 66. Anybody born between 1955 and 1960? Okay, things get a little silly there. There's a 2-month stair step each year for full retirement age. In other words, at age 54, your full retirement age is 66. At age 55, it's 66 and 2 months. In 1956, it's 66 and 4 months. You see where I'm going? 1967 is 66 and 6 months. 68 is 66 and 8 months.
58.
I just want to see if you're paying attention. I'm confusing myself here. Let's say 1959. What's full retirement age in 1959?
66.
66 years and 10 months. How many people are born in 1960 or later? Okay. In 1960, the full retirement age becomes 67. So, with the exception of a couple people here, we're all in the range of either 66 or 66 in some months. That's considered your full retirement age, and we'll get into the implications of that now. After full retirement age, there's also a period of time known as the delayed retirement credit. This is where this is bonus country, folks. From 1962 to 1966, your benefit increases 6.25% a year, because in 1962 at age 62 you'd only get 75%. At your full retirement age, presuming at 66, you'd get 100%. But you don't have to begin then. You can wait as long as the age of 70. Because from age 66 to age 70, your benefit is guaranteed to increase 8% every single year. So what that means is if you wait to age 70, you will get 132%. Get what's yours. You can get more than 100%. You can get way, way more. Because we haven't even talked about the cost of living benefits as well.
That's assuming you continue to work till age 70.
Well, not necessarily work. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. That's why, see that guy in the back of the room there? That's my expert. You want to know how to get to 70 without starting your Social Security? He's the guy you want to be talking with. He's my brain trust. He's part of my brain trust. A big part. But the point is, you can delay until age 70, and there's more benefits to come from doing so. That's why I said earlier, I have a philosophy of how I counsel my clients to pursue Social Security. If you don't want to wait till 70, that's okay. But you should absolutely have a goal of making it to your full retirement age. And if you can keep on going and you say, well, where's the other money going to come from? That's what Kit in the back of the room is going to be able to help you figure out.
So, but my question is if you do that, and like in my position, I'm not working, so my income, my current, where I'm at my current age, is only gonna go up 8%, and it's a nominal amount. I figured it out, it's like $10, $20 a month, possibly,
Okay, all
difference in benefits.
right. That's where we get into our planning session. As I'm going to be saying at the end of the program, everybody's been good enough to come to this meeting, ought to be having a planning session with me afterwards. Because the good news about working with a guy like me is there is never, I want to speak up so the microphone can hear me here, there is never a charge to you for any of my services. All the advice I have to you is free counseling. And what we need to do is sit down and talk confidentially and seriously about, here's my situation, here's where I am, what can we do in this situation to maximize my income? So that's where the pros like Kent come into play. Those are the types of things that we know how to do to help people hold off. Because as you can see, 1948, 1943 and later, your delayed income benefit will go up 8% each year. Now I want to put that in perspective, because sometimes people will say, well, I want to start my Social Security even though I don't need it, because I'm going to turn around and invest it. That's, because after all, ever since the year 2011, the stock market's done nothing but go up. Well, since you said 2011, let's talk about that for a second, because we economists, and being an accountant by education and 35 years of financial experience, I consider myself to be an economist. We say you can't look at 1 year randomly and say, oh, I should have been in the market for that year. We say if you're going to get a true reading, take a 20-year average of what the market would have done up to that point in time. And if we say the market's done nothing but go up since 2011, let's look backwards to the year 1991. That was 20 years before 2011. What happened between 1991 and 2011? What happened twice between 1991 and 2011?
The housing flop.
Well, the stock market crashed. My goodness, in 2008 it went down 40% in 6 months. So if you took the annual average for 20 years from 1991 to 2011, the actual average return in the market was a negative figure. Now, you want to tell me you want to take a chance on putting your Social Security money into the stock market when I'm telling you you got a guaranteed increase of 6.25% from age 62 to 66 and a guaranteed increase of 8% a year every year from 1966 to 1970? What do you want, the bird in the hand or the two in the bush? This is the way to be able to maximize your long-term income by maximizing your Social Security. And Dorothy will get into lots of personal consultations about how we can help you do that when we have an opportunity after part 1 here and before part 2 to have those kinds of conversations. And once again, there's no cost for those consultations. Now, I've talked about the fact that you're going to get an increase from Social Security. If you can see this, here's an example. It says PIA, that's primary insurance amount. That basically means the same thing as full retirement age. Primary insurance amount at age 60, if we say, just to use a target figure, let's say a full retirement, you have gotten $1,000. That means if you started in 1962, you would have only gotten $750. But if you waited to age 70, you would have gotten $1,320. And if you want to do the math on that real quick, that's a 76% increase from $750 to $1,320. But folks, it's going to get better. even better than that. Let me go over a few more Social Security rules for you. Spouses. Social Security has a system that is called deeming, D-E-E-M. That's a very important word. What deeming means is if you file for your Social Security benefits, you may be eligible for more than one. You're eligible for your own, and if you're married, you're also eligible for a spousal benefit. And whichever one is larger is the one that you'll get. If you were a spouse and you never worked, as long as your other spouse was earning the credit, you got the same credits as well. And what that means is even though you may not qualify for benefit, you're still entitled to be able to get half of what the working spouse did, or your own if it might be higher. And in order to determine if you qualify, there's an extra benefit because it's real simple. The spousal benefit will be determined by taking the spouse's working primary insurance amount and dividing it by 2. And then if yours turned out to be less than that, you'll get the difference. So look, here's an example. I want to put this all up on the screen. If you had a husband whose primary insurance amount, full retirement age, was $2,400, and his wife had worked and accrued $1,000 worth of benefit, well, $1,000 is less than his half of $1,200, so you'd still get the $2,000 benefit. So what that means is, instead of having $3,400 a month, you'd be able to get $3,600 a month. Now we need to talk about 2 things relating to divorcees. Divorced spouses and widowed divorced spouses. If you are divorced, you can also qualify to get that half of the spouse you were divorced from, but you have to meet these specific rules. You had to have been married for at least 10 years. You had to have been at least divorced for the last 2 years. You have to have reached age 62, the minimum, and you must still be unmarried. And then if you are in your divorce, you're still able to qualify for that half of your spouse's if it's greater than what yours would have been. But if you're a widow and if you're divorced and you're a widow, it's a little different. You still would have had to met the rules about married 10 years, divorced 2 years. But you have to have been at least age 60. You can start the benefit if you're a widow at age 60, as long as you were not remarried before that age. Now, this is a very interesting statistic. I'm sorry you won't be able to see it better, but I'm going to explain it. This shows the percentage of how people started their Social Security at what age. Here we are down here at 62, where the benefit is only how much? What percent? 75? 42% of all seniors still start their benefit at that time. See what I mean about we want to help you learn how to get what's yours? And between 62 and before they reach the full retirement age here, which is 64, another 25% started the benefit. So what that means is by the time they reach the full retirement age, more than half of all seniors are already getting their benefit. And even for those who make it at 66, most of them started that very year. So very few wait any longer until the statistics tell us there are only 2 people in 100 who make it to 100, to make it to age 70 to be able to receive this full benefit. And I can tell you, I'm going to be one. I was 66 last month. I'm at my full retirement age, but I'm going to walk the talk, and I'm holding out for 70, and I want to get as many people to join me in that quest, which we can help you do by planning on the assets and savings you've already accrued in life. We can help you learn how to get replacement income if you need to in that 60s age range to be able to rely on something else other than taking your Social Security. Remember, we opened the window and we threw that conventional wisdom out. This is what we want to do. We want to look for other alternatives to help us delay and maximize our Social Security. But hey, folks, if you come to me and say, that's great, Jay, but I got to start now, it's your decision. I'm not telling you what to do, of course. I'm only advising. And whatever you decide to do, I'll help you not only get the most out of your Social Security and your Medicare, but also how to maximize the savings that you have. You're the boss. We'll do whatever you want. I'm just telling you, I'm giving you encouragement to get what's yours by learning how to maximize the system. Now, there's something you need to know about working and taking your Social Security benefits when you're in that age range before your full retirement age. In other words, that age 62 to 66 range. If you do that, the federal government, well, they don't like, I don't know why, but they don't like you working and taking Social Security. So they say that if you get more than $17,000, $17,040 to be exact, in Social Security income, when you go above that level, we're going to start withholding $1 out of every $2 that you would have been paid. So you're not going to be getting that Social Security, you're only going to be getting 50%. So number one, you started it before you reached your full retirement age, which is bad. And then number two, you're still working and they're taking the money away from you, which is even worse. Here's an example. Somebody had $60,000 worth of earnings. That means their earnings exceeded the $17,000 limit by $42,000. They're going to take half of that. That's $21,000 worth of Social Security benefits they're going to withhold from you. If you did that for all 4 years, 62 to 66, they would have withheld $85,000. And the way they do it is when the new year starts, whatever amount you've taken, they are going to withhold your monthly payment until that amount of money has been recouped. So you may be getting into March, April, even May, June, before you ever even start getting Social Security benefits. So the moral of the story is just be forewarned. Now, you will get that money back. They will pay it back to you incrementally in that time period of age 66 to 70. But still, you started the benefit before you reached full retirement age, and you're only getting half of it. Not a good scene. So, you can do it. I'm just letting you know what the facts are.
A question.
Sure.
Is the 17,000 your taxable income? I mean,
17,000
is taxable income minus the 17,000.
$17,000 worth of Social Security.
Okay.
Okay. So, what makes Social Security retirement the cornerstone you've been looking for? Consider these features. It's paid for life. It's continued for the surviving spouse. I hope you realize this. If one spouse dies, if they're getting a higher rate of higher Social Security, the survivor gets a step up to that level. It's inflation adjusted. We're going to be showing you that in a minute. It's tax efficient. I'll be explaining what that means in a minute. But what I want to tell you right now is you never pay tax on 100% of your Social Security income. You work, you pay 100% tax on everything you earn. You make capital gains from the stock market, from investments, you pay 100% tax on everything you earn. With Social Security, you will never pay more than a maximum of 85% tax on your Social Security. And we'll show you exactly how that breaks down in a minute. But that's why we say it's tax efficient. And then it's backed by the government's guarantee. I shouldn't say guarantee, their promise. Their promise of payment. So longevity, we all know about this. The fact that the possibility of one spouse surviving beyond the age of 80 is 90%. You don't want to outlive your money. Here's our poster girl, Ida Mae Fuller. She was the first person back in 1940 who ever got. She was 62. Or excuse me, her Medicare birthday was in 1940. And this wonderful lady lived to the age of 100. So, even back then there was longevity in some people. We're not going to outlive our Social Security. Inflation, my goodness, you all know the story about inflation. We've already talked about that. Taxes, we're going to talk about taxes, as I said in part 2. You definitely want to be there for that because you have a golden opportunity, an absolutely golden opportunity to strengthen your retirement plans with the new tax plan we have. Now, let me talk about something called stacking, because stacking involves the fact that, number one, you're getting these automatic increases in Social Security. You're getting 76%, but you're also getting a cost of living adjustment. And what they did in this example was just took the actual cost of living increases for this period of time to apply to this, And what they're actually saying to you is between stacking your Social Security benefits and your cost of living, your income is more than double at 70 what it would have been at 62. There's great bonus, tremendous value in the delay. Now, I want to give you an example here. Here's a situation where if the couple would have started at age 25, just on the growth of their Social Security loan at age 70, it would have been $4,300. But with the stacking aspect, that $2,500, along with cost of living, along with the increases, instead of having $2,500 at age 62, they would have had $5,476 at age 70. Now, of course, that's going to raise the question, well, what am I going to do from 62 to 70 to have enough income? That's where our help comes into play. That's where we really become valuable in helping design strategies for you to be able to achieve that. Taxes, as I said, we're not going to go into the taxes now. Taxation of benefits, there's a provisional formula which is showing that, I talked about how the most tax you could pay on Social Security income would be up to 85%. On the first $25,000, you're not paying any tax. On $25,000 to $44,000, you pay tax on 50% of your Social Security. At anything over $44,000, you pay another 35%. So here's how that would actually look. To determine amount, let's take the fact that there's three ways that these formulas can be determined because the tax codes have been written at different times. But the way it works best is to take 50% of total benefits exceeding the threshold of $32,000 for a couple or $25,000 single, and an additional 35% on that income for the couple being up to $44,000. So we're going to play a game, and we're going to use two examples, or an example of two couples. One couple is named the Earlys. The other couple is named the Laters. Guess what age the Earlys are going to start taking their Social Security? 62. Guess what age the Laters are going to take theirs? 70. There you go. Let's see what actually would have happened. They both have the goal of, they've decided they need $75,000 in annual income. Because of the fact that the Earlys started at 62, they're only going to get $2,500 a month or $30,000 from their Social Security. Whereas the Laters, by experiencing stacking, would be able to receive $65,000 at the age of 70. So let's see what that means. First off, the Earlys, we've got to calculate how much tax they've got to pay on their Social Security. And the way that's going to look for them is for their income over $32,000, they're going to pay $1,400. $14,000 will become taxable income. And for their income when it went over $40,000, $5,600 will become taxable income. So what that means is the Earlys would have to include in their Social Security tax on $19,600 on the amount of Social Security income they received. Remember that figure, $19,600 is the amount of total taxable Social Security they received. What happened with the Laters? Well, because of the fact that they had so much of their Social Security income, they only have what's called provisional income, where they had to pay $5,072 on the 50% that went over that. And because none of their income exceeded that level, they'll have no additional 35% tax. So the Laters would have had to pay total taxable Social Security of $5,072. So you can see that there's an advantage in when you have to pay your taxes each year on maximizing the amount of income you get out of Social Security. The Laters only had to pay on $5,000 worth of the income. Remember, the Earlys had to pay what? On $19,000. Furthermore, let's see how it affects your savings. Remember, both couples wanted to get $75,000, but the Earleys only got $30,000 out of their Social Security. That means they had to take $45,000 out of their savings every year. The Laters, because they're getting $65,000 from Social Security, they only had to take $9,200 out of their savings. They didn't have to take $45,000 out of their savings. They only had to take $9,000. And look at the taxable income on the bottom. The Earleys had to declare taxable income of $64,000. The Laters, if you add it all up, only had to pay tax on $14,000. And that's because they got 100%, 110% more there. And that decreased their taxable income by 76%. So the Earleys had to pay income on total income, taxable income of $64,000. The Laters only had to pay taxable income on $14,000. So we get back to that figure that we saw in the beginning. And it becomes a question not only of what we can do to help with the savings you've got, but what we can do to help you use those savings as a way to be able to replace the income that you would have needed from Social Security so you can max that out. And that's what we can help you learn how to do. So as I said, by the fact that you've taken the time to come to this class today, everyone is entitled to have a personal consultation. I want to be able to have these, get these scheduled and then within the next month, and then have them at the latest the month after that, so that we can get together for part 2 come the month of June, and we'll give you the times and places that you can come back for that class where we talk about other sources of income, how to minimize your taxes, how to get your best benefits from Medicare, that type thing. And when we do get together, we'll prepare a report for you called Social Security Optimization. And what that report will cover are all these different subjects. And if I could, Kent, can I get one of those, where are my brochures that I handed out to people?
Right here.
So what I'd like you to be able to do, as I said, we have to do the paperwork for Ivy Tech. If you could, while we're going through this process, be sure to complete that page over there that says evaluation. And on the other side, you'll find a sheet that says Personalized Social Security Optimization Report. Now that you've heard me do an explanation of these benefits, you understand these things, and if there are topics that you'd like to be able to get from the fact that we have a planning session together, check these off, and we'll be able to prepare this Social Security Optimization Report for you. And the last page that we have on here is the appointment request. Now, folks, I understand it's difficult to talk about how to schedule an appointment. You say, I don't have my book with me. If you do have a day and a time specifically in mind that you'd like to meet, you can fill in the top section. And remember, where we meet is up to you. If you'd like to meet in one of my offices, either in Noblesville or Carmel or any of the 2 in Fishers, whatever might be closer for you. If you'd like me to come to your home, be glad to come to your home. Or we can even use as a third source what we call the neutral site. Now, folks, when it comes to selecting a neutral site, places like Starbucks and McDonald's are not really good. You know, it's a little hard to have a personal conversation when somebody's spilling their French fries on you. But I've had plenty of meetings in places like libraries. Banks very often have conference rooms they let their clients use. Even post offices, churches. Where we meet is up to you. We can meet in your home, or you can choose to meet in one of my offices, or you can pick any one of those other third type sources. Now, you probably have an idea of the days that are good for you, the times of days that are good for you. In that lower section, if you check that off, what I'll do is I can call and we can sit and talk with both of us having our calendars in front of us, and we can talk until we find a time that's good for both of us to be able to meet. Now, when we do, besides being able to produce these kinds of reports for you, we also need to have a serious heart-to-heart talk about what are your plans for the future and the best way to get to them. When we have that discussion, which I have had many of, I've come to realize over the course of the years, it all comes down to 4 basic questions that I will ask, and based upon how you respond, then I can tell you the ways that we might be able to help you with that. 4 basic questions. Those 4 basic questions are on a piece of paper which I have in this envelope. And if you would like to schedule your appointment with me today, you know a time and a place you'd like to do, come and see me afterwards, and I'll give you one of these envelopes now so that you can be reading these questions and thinking about how you might want to answer them. If we have to do the procedure of I call you up and we compare calendars, after we settle on a time, I'll send you an email with the confirmation, and I'll attach this list of 4 questions as a PDF to that. But this is really what's going to motivate how to select the best ways we can help you with the future. So if you could please, you've got 3 forms then to complete for us. One is that evaluation form. That's for Ivy Tech. They want it, as I said, they're deciding how they can offer courses like this on an ongoing basis. And then secondly, the personalized Social Security. This is the kind of information you'd like us to be able to provide to you. If you let me know what it is, we'll be able to help you do that. And then the third would be if you wanted to ask either for a specific time or you want me to call and ask, well, you say Wednesdays in the afternoons are good. How's next Wednesday or the week after that? And if, as I said, if you want to come up and see me while you're here, ask to make a specific appointment, that's fine. I've got my calendar. I'll be glad to put that down for you. Also, I know from having done any of these that a lot of people have personal questions that they want to ask about that they didn't want to ask in front of a room full of people. Please come up and talk to me afterwards. I'll be glad to discuss personal issues with you then. And just like every other conversation you have, you can be assured, based upon my 30 years of professional experience, of complete confidentiality of anything and everything we discuss. So if you want to work on those 3 pieces of paper for me, and while we're doing that, at the end here, you've been great. If you've noticed, I've tried to discourage questions because since we're taping this, the microphone can't pick up the questions that you're asking. But we can take the time now. If you'd like to ask any questions, I'll repeat them for the microphone here and then give you an answer. Anything I've talked about that anybody would like to ask any questions at all about? Yes, ma'am. Nancy.
Right. So if you're not working.
If you're not working.
You're retired.
Yeah.
Does your benefit increase 8% if you wait from 62 to 70?
Absolutely. And let me, I'm sorry, here's a detail I left out. How does Social Security decide what it is they're going to pay you? Well, what happens is during your working years, going up to the age of 60, they will pick out 35 of the years in which you had the highest income, average those, and that's how you determine what your Social Security income is going to be. But if you keep on working after 60, it's to your benefit, because if they took the 35 highest, well, one of those highest may be the first year you worked when you made $8,000. But now you're making $50,000, that $50,000 can knock out that 8. So the longer you continue to work, but you don't have to. And if you work less than 35 years, you at least work 10 years so you get the benefit, but you work less than 35 years, I'm afraid they're going to count that as a 0 in that average.
Yeah, but you got to take into consideration if you're, part-time working.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be making as much as if you were.
Yeah, as I said, we get into the nuances of what will be better for me to take my benefit or to take half of my spouse's, and if there's divorces or there's widows involved. We can get into all the specifics of that then. Denise. I was going to say Dolores. So I remember I had two D's sitting there. Dorothy and Denise. Yes, Denise.
Okay, so if my husband waits till 70 to claim his benefit, would I get half of his benefit at 70, his enhanced benefit, or would I get half of his full benefit that he would have gotten at 65 or 66?
Yeah, it's the full benefit at 66, so
Okay.
there may not be any additional advantage for you waiting beyond that time. If that's what you're going to do, claim half of his.
Okay.
How do you go about claiming? I mean, do they voluntarily?
You can do it online. You can go to any of the offices. There's one right across the street from my office at 56th and Post. Or there's a way I can show you, there's a formula. You can go online and you can actually find out online an estimation of what you would get at age 62, your full retirement age, and 70.
And the benefit statements you receive every year from Social Security, is that pretty accurate as far as what?
Well, you're not quite receiving them every year anymore, but
Go online and get it.
yeah. If you see that they've got an income listed for a year for you that you think is wrong, you can dispute that. Absolutely.
But
Yeah. So it's certainly worth checking your record just to make sure that they are doing that correctly.
so they're not going to be sending out the statements any longer?
It's been periodic. I think they send them out every 5 years now, or when you receive a certain age. Ken, you're nodding your head. Do you know, Ken?
Yeah, I think we're done sending them out.
Last I read on the website, you have to go in and sign
Yes.
up and
Yeah,
That was
everything's
just recent that I think it
you
might
have
be
to
this
change your
year.
password every so many months,
You're
drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most recent rules I know of are from the year 2016. But, they can't change that. But, of course, they're trying to get to everything being electronic now.
Well, and the thing is 2 years now, they could change back. I mean, they could change their mind at any time.
Yeah.
on how they do it, so.
The government's fickle.
What's your job title?
Anything
My
else?
job title? I actually work for a firm that helps financial advisors, and we basically provide back office support. So I'm kind of just a financial planning back office kind of guy. I don't meet with clients. I sit and research all the time.
Yeah, let me explain a little bit better about how I work and how that comes into play. I'm what's called an independent agent. I'm authorized to be able to act as a representative and write contracts for companies like the Anthems and the Humanas of the world. But since I'm not actually working for them, I still have to go through a middle source that has the actual connection to those companies. If you've ever heard the old line, you'll never replace the middleman. Kent works with the company that serves agents like myself to help us enroll clients into different programs and also to devise strategies to be able to help you maximize what you have. So I work with you as your representative, and then I also work with Kent as the conduit to the companies that we can use, because first off, we want to design programs, which are plans on how you can meet your goals. At some point, we're going to have to get to the stage where we're going to have to involve some of these financial companies with products for you. And then when we get to that stage, that's where Kent's able to come into play to help me find the best companies for you to get your objectives. But we deal with programs that are designed to help you decide what you need, and then we go get the products to get it done. So we're not selling products, we're providing programs. Okay? Anybody?
Is there an added Social Security benefit for veterans?
No,
No, there's something called a veteran's pension, but what that is, as a matter of fact, I've gone through the process of getting that from my parents because my father was in the Air Force during the Korean War. There's a program called Aid in Attendance where they can provide up to $2,100 a month to couples to help pay for the cost of when they've reached the point where they can't perform activities of daily living.
Okay.
But there's no additional benefit for income for Social Security or anything like that.
Can you get that if you're already getting a VA disability?
Yes.
But you have to have a medical need, don't you, to get the $11.53 for a single person?
Well, you know a little bit about Aid in Attendance.
I do Medicaid.
Okay. Yes, and the Aid in Attendance is a very involved application process. And we need to identify all the programs that you're already in to make sure that we don't do something that would cause you to become disenrolled from another. Okay, the camera's still running. Any last questions before we turn it off? Well, thank you. As I said, we'll be doing a second program in the month of June. We want to allow time in between to be able to have all of our personal meetings. We'll get together, we'll talk confidentially, we'll provide some advice and suggestions for you. We'll help you do everything you can to get what's yours and maximize your income. And I thank you all again so very much for coming out on such a beautiful day.
Thank you, Jay.
Go out and enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do we give the paperwork to you or to him?